And I will be using this little wooden hammer here in just a minute, kids. So I want anybody to jump when I hit the hammer.
Yeah, Becky.
It is 6 o'clock, November 15th, 2022, and I call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the City of Commerce City Council. Tonight, we are very fortunate and very honored to have Pastor Dimitri Green of the Commerce Church of Christ here to lead our invocation. The Commerce Church of Christ dates back to the mid-1800s and is located at 1900 Culver Street, across the street from the Whitley Hall Dormitory. Pastor Dimitri Green and his wife Ruby Green are both graduates of Texas A&M University of Commerce. He also has a seminary degree. He's been at the Commerce Church of Christ since May 2022. They have 3 daughters, age 5, 3, and 1. Pastor Green, welcome tonight, and welcome back to Commerce. We're glad to have you. Please come forward now to the podium and provide our invocation for tonight's meeting.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for today, specifically, Lord, this evening. God, I am grateful for men and women in Commerce, Texas, who recognize the importance of having you involved in big decisions here, Lord. Father, we pray that these men and women you would bless with wisdom, with humility, dear Lord, as they make decisions and plan future concerning the city, God. Father, we know that you are the one who elects, and that you have purposely placed them in positions that they have, Father. So I pray that you would bless them and use them, oh God. Bless the rest of this evening to meet and congregate, God. We love you in Jesus' name. We say amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Green. For our Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we have Principal Patricia Nelly and Belinda Miller, counselor from Commerce Elementary School, with a very special group of second graders to lead our Pledge of Allegiance. These students were nominated by their teachers for their outstanding citizenship and leadership. We thank you all for being here tonight. Please lead us in the pledges.
Such sweet little voices.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mayor, I think the most popular part of the show's over.
I started to say something about, we're not judging you for leaving. But if your child's going to be at home alone, please leave now. So, goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, folks. Item number 4 on our agenda tonight is the consent agenda. Please take a moment to look over the items that are listed here. I do want to make a special note. The item there at the bottom of the acceptance of the minutes, special city council meeting November 1st, 2022. In the process of reviewing our minutes as we were preparing so now we need a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented with that change.
I move that we accept the consent agenda with the change.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 5, presentation to the city council by members of the public. This is going to be conducted, this period is reserved for citizens to discuss items not on the listed agenda. The response to the public comments will be limited to 1, a statement of fact or policy, 2, direction to take up this issue with the city staff member, or 3, an offer to place the item on a future council agenda. I have no cards in front of me tonight. Do we have anybody here that wishes to address the council? There being none, we'll move on to item 6, council comments. This is an opportunity for the city council to comment on thanks, holiday, upcoming events, and anything else falling within the parameters that are listed here on the agenda. So first, let's start with Councilman Henry.
As always, thank you to the staff.
Photo booths, face painting, and we're hoping to have the fire truck down there. And there will, so we can have pictures made there as well. And there will be adoptions. The animal shelter is bringing some of their special friends over for us to help to get them adopted. So hope everybody can be there between 3 and 5.
All right, thank you. Councilman Thompson?
Just a couple of things. I would like to thank the Thayan Culture Club. They sponsored a toy drive at the beginning of the month for Commerce Little Angels. It was very successful. I'd like to thank the club and those that participated in it. And I'd also like to thank the downtown merchants. If you've been downtown, you'll see that they are getting ready for Christmas. Lots of windows are being painted, and there's still lots more. So we appreciate them working in doing that to make us a little bit more festive around here.
Thank you, Council. Item number 7, discussion and possible action on a resolution nominating a representative for the Hunt County Appraisal District Board of Directors. Mr. Lisenby.
Mayor, council, thank you for taking this item this evening. As many of you know, and we regret, John Sands, former mayor, recently passed, and he has served this community in many honorable and distinctive ways. Nominating him to the board, and in December the board will vote and elect their choice to fill that term. And so tonight's resolution is just submitting Jim Bob Grove as a nomination to fill that unexpired term.
Are there any questions for Mr. Lisenby? There being none, can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion that we adopt a resolution nominating Jim Bob Grove to the Hunt County Appraisal Board of Directors for the
Second.
remaining term.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8, a resolution approving a neighborhood empowerment zone agreement for the property located on 1115 Charlie's Drive, with Michael White, authorizing the city manager to execute all necessary documentation.
Mayor, if I may, we need to have a motion to pull this from the table or remove this from the table in order for us to discuss and consider.
I
Do I-
move that
Go
that
ahead.
we move this from the table, put it back on the,
We have a motion to remove from the table for discussion and a second. So all in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Mr. Harper.
Council, as you remember, we had some software issues the last time this came up in October. So when it came to my desk, everything looked perfectly fine. And then when we switched it over to the software for the council packets, it came out completely, I don't know what the right word is.
Jumbled? Yeah.
Garbled? So we have brought this back in front of y'all again, and everything appears to look fine on there. I don't know if it printed out differently, but staff recommends approval of this agreement.
Are there any questions for Mr. Harper? There being none, may I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the Neighborhood Empowerment Zone Agreement and allow or authorize the city manager to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Harper.
Mayor, if I may, I want to just speak briefly on the concept of tabling a motion. One of the things that I think we need to look at is, I don't believe that the council has formally adopted a rules of procedure. And so we operate kind of ad hoc under a modified version of Robert's Rules of Order. And sometimes we get questions on the purpose or the intent of placing something on the table. And many times the rules of order, the rules of procedure don't make sense when everybody's happy and everybody agrees. But it's when those times that not everybody agrees that rules of procedure become incredibly important. And so as a hypothetical example, let's assume there's an issue that comes to the council in which we don't agree. And if there are 3 that don't like an idea and 2 that like it, and if we put it up and it gets voted down and denied, the 2 who like it can continue to request it be put on the agenda, and it can come back over and over and over, and it must continue to be discussed and debated as long as they keep putting it on the agenda. However, if a majority of the council chooses to put it on the table, it technically shouldn't be discussed and considered unless a majority remove it from the table. And so if a minority of the council continue to want to put this on for discussion, but the majority of the council decides that they don't want to remove it from the table, it helps bring some semblance of order. And so in some of these items, we recently took action without removing it from the table, not really thinking through the process. And so it is our recommendation that whenever someone does put something on the table, that it be removed from the table before it is considered again. And that will help us as we move forward in a civil discussion about topics. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lisenby. Which brings us to item number 9. Discussion of possible action on a resolution related to the bonding of public officials and city leadership. Mr. Lisenby.
Yes, sir. We have been approached by a public records request, a Freedom of Information request recently, asking for copies of the bonds which are provided for some of our city staff. And we don't currently have bonds, surety bonds for any of our staff. And so we began to research that concept. State law has some provision that state officials have to be bonded by a surety bond. It has provisions that county officials have to be bonded by surety bonds. But when it comes to municipal government officials, it basically delegates that to the governing body of the city, of the local government. And so if we look to the charter for the City of Commerce, it simply states that if the council designates a bonding requirement, that such bond will be provided. And we have not found anything in past minutes or action by the council to require a bond. It may have happened in the past, we just can't find that. And so the question of, does the current council want or desire for officials to have a surety bond? And if so, at what amount would you? So it's just some protection against the taxpayers if we as primary officials fail to act or act inappropriately in a manner that causes a loss for the community. And so really the only officials that have that kind of risk would be myself as city manager, police chief, public safety director, and the finance director. And so it's up to you whether you require a bond. That would be our recommendation. If you do, it'd be limited to those staff. Molly, did I miss anything? Okay.
So before we take any action on a motion to approve the resolution, at our previous meeting, we did table this. So the first thing we need to do is to have a motion to remove it from the table for further discussion.
Did we discuss this before?
We discussed it, but it was tabled.
And when was that tabled?
The last.
Did we move in second to table it?
I think that's the next item, the animal shelter item.
That was the animal
This one-
shelter. This
I
one we
thought we
haven't,
just-
Right, you guys discussed in work.
It was a discussion only.
Okay,
but I don't think
discussion only. So
Yeah.
we didn't,
there was no action.
okay.
so I don't think we have to move it.
Okay, then let me call for any additional questions from Mr. Lisenby.
You said Greenville has 200,000
On the city manager.
on the city manager. Is that something that's pretty normal for them? They've always done it, or that you found out? Or?
Molly did some of that research, so.
I'm looking at it. I have the bonds pulled up. One thing I just want to clarify while I have it pulled up, the bonds for a cost for us range from $50 to $1,000, and that correlates with a $10,000 bond up to a $250,000 bond. And we can do it for 1 year, and it's good for 1 year, or we can do it for up to 3 years. So before I leave that email, I wanted to share that information. And I'm drawing a blank on the Greenville city secretary's name.
I couldn't tell you.
I believe she said they'd been doing it for as long as she had been there, and she's been there for several years. But it appears the surety company we've been talking to, the max that they recommend is $250,000.
And that would be at about $1,000 a year? Okay.
Any other questions?
What amount are we looking at that we would,
Greenville did the 200. I think Greenville has a $200,000 bond on their city manager. And so that's kind of a cap if there's either through failure to act, negligence, or some inappropriate act, the city encounters a loss, it kicks in and pays up to whatever the face value of that surety bond is. Y'all get to decide if you're doing one and at what level. Greenville does one for city manager only, and I believe it's at 200,000.
Are we talking about each individual 200,000?
It's really an assessment of risk. What's the risk if someone fails to act, and what would we be exposed to? For the city manager, failure to act could end up being something costly. I would say public safety, failure to act could result in some kind of litigation or loss. And then your finance director, there's typically a lot of potential risk there. So I would say if it's just us three, it would be at the same amount for all three, because I think there's a comparable level of risk.
I would also like to remind this council that your investment officers are not only the city manager, but that also includes your financial.
Finance director.
Other, in the past, it used to be only the city manager. Only after about 3 years ago did we make the change that 2 people were investment officers. Because you have certain risks associated with investment, it's always better, and it probably looks better, and transparency-wise, that
guess that was my, about to make that comment. I think when it was first brought up, when we just started looking at this, I do trust the staff. But I think that the transparency, but also the citizens would know that we are protecting them
Yep.
at any cost, so that if anything should come up, and things have in the past, and things may in the future, maybe not with the same people, but I think it is for the taxpayer that they know that we're expecting something to be taken care of.
Well, and it's our recommendation. It's better to have this conversation now
Than
than wait until something happens and then everybody wonders why we didn't do it.
Right, I agree.
And so, yeah,
Yeah,
After the fact.
yeah.
So just for clarification, I found the Director of Human Resources is Ms. Sherry from Greenville. And she said that what runs through the HR office in Greenville is the Director of Public Utilities and the City Manager.
Okay.
She doesn't necessarily think that means nobody else is bonded, that's just what runs through her office. As Howdy said, they're covered at $200,000 and they renew it annually, so once a year. So when I fill out those applications, I'll just need some clarity from the council as to how long for renewal.
Well,
or
and
for 3 years.
their director of utilities is an engineer and practices as an engineer.
And it's through JUICE, so I
Yeah.
imagine they
Yeah.
contribute to
Yeah. We don't have an engineer acting as an engineer, so.
I would, excuse me, I would mention to the council that the charter does speak to this issue in section 36, and it does provide that the city manager shall give bond in such amount and with such surety as the council will determine, and such other officers as you might determine need to give bond. And the other thing which is important in this section is that the city council will pay the premiums on such bond. So, and it doesn't say much more than that, but that is some of the base work.
So is that the city council paying the premium or
that
the
was
city
the same
budget?
comment made
paying
down here at the
the
other
premium?
end.
It says the city of Commerce.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, all right, okay.
I'm sure that our hide would be taken out, or the cost would be taken out of our hide.
So as I see it, we have a motion to accept the recommendation of the bonds and to set value of the bonds, said bonds,
At 200,
200,000.
at 200,000, and, well, I think we were going 200. And then for the city manager, the finance director, and the public safety officer,
Director,
director,
that's staff
Director.
recommendation.
yes. I make that motion.
And I'm
A
sorry,
second.
I missed the term, you said annual?
And it will be on an annual basis. In a second.
Right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Keep it straight.
Item 10, we had moved the minutes from the consent agenda and made them 10A, so let's start with those minutes discussion, if we could, please. Mr. Lisenby.
The minutes that have been drafted reflect the action that was taken during that special meeting and workshop. And so staff is not recommending any changes to the minutes because they accurately reflect what happened. We're recommending that we discuss them here to re-bring up the concept of tabling. We had 2 council members that weren't present for that workshop and special meeting, and we discussed the matter of the animal shelter and the amending of the capital improvements plan, and we actually took action on that without removing it from the table. And so the minutes reflect accurately what happened, but we do feel that to keep everything procedurally correct, we need to bring it back as an agenda item, remove it from the table, and then allow for discussion and take action on that item. We would recommend approval of the minutes as presented because they accurately reflect what happened. We just need to go back and clean up some of that.
So we have 2 actions. The one, remove them from the table, and then to approve them as the minutes were presented. So do I have a motion?
I move that we remove this from the table.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Now, a motion for the minutes to accept the minutes as presented.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. 10B, discuss and possible action on ordinance to amend ordinance 2021-27, which adopted the fiscal year 2022 capital improvements plan to increase the budget for the animal shelter expansion project. Mr. Lisenby.
I believe we need to remove this item from the table as well.
I move that we remove it from the table.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
All right, so as we discussed this item, I don't want to recap everything, but one of the projects that is included within our capital improvements program is the rehabilitation or the expansion of our animal shelter. Animal Services is currently operating out of a metal building that wasn't designed for the use that it is functioning as, and it has not aged well, and so it doesn't have the capacity to meet the needs of our community. It doesn't function well enough to meet the needs of our staff, and so we believe we desperately need to improve the level of service we provide to the community and the facility in which we provide that service to the community. So when we put this project together 2 or 3 years ago, the budget of $1.5 million was supported by an anticipated cost per square foot of $250 per square foot. At the time, that was about what construction costs were realizing, and so that would have allowed us to build about 6,000 square feet of facility. However, shortly after that, as many people know, the construction industry exploded through COVID. Costing just completely changed. And so $250 a square foot is no longer a realistic budget. And so we've gone through a couple of steps of the design process. We have designed an addition to the animal shelter that fits within our $1.5 million budget. However, that project does not provide the capacity nor the functionality that our community and our staff need. And so we came asking for a revision of that project budget to an amount that allows us to actually construct a meaningful project that both meets the capacity needs of our community and meets the functionality that our staff and the animals deserve. And so in speaking with the building contractor that we have hired and looking at pricing now and into the future, we felt like a $3 million budget gave us plenty of room to build a facility that has the capacity to serve the community and the functionality to make our staff effective. And so our recommendation was to amend the capital improvements program to move $1.5 million into this project to give it a total budget of $3 million. That was the discussion in the workshop, and that remains our recommendation to the council.
Any questions for Mr. Lisenby? There being none, may I have a motion, please?
I move that we amend the CPI plan for the animal shelter to include $1.5 million, making a total of $3 million.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 11, discussion and possible action on calling a special meeting of the Commerce City Council in December. Mr. Lisenby.
Mayor, Council, if we go back to the charter for the City of Commerce, it calls for the regular City Council meeting to be held on the third Tuesday of the month, unless that Tuesday falls on a holiday or an election day. We're not aware of any holidays that fall on the third Tuesday, and there are no election days that fall on the third Tuesday. So the regular meeting for December is currently scheduled for December 20th, which is the week of Christmas. We recognize that there are people that want to travel during the week of Christmas. If I'm being totally transparent, I would like to ask off that week so that I can go see family. And so the charter additionally provides the council with the ability to call special meetings at any time you deem necessary. So staff is asking that we call a special meeting for December 13th, so that our meeting in December would be held on that day, so that everyone has the ability to travel during the week of Christmas. And then December 20th, we would just not have our regular meeting.
Any questions for Mr. Lisenby?
I'm not the only member of staff that wants to travel on that week, but
So that's on the spot.
I am being somewhat selfish.
There being no questions, do we have a motion to move the date?
Make a motion that we call a special meeting on December the 13th of the Commerce City Council to replace our regularly scheduled city council meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion
And-
carries.
Mayor, for December 20th, then that will be a city council holiday.
Got it. Make note. All
We
right.
may need a proclamation for that.
Item 12, city manager's report.
There was no public input or comment today, and so I will hand the mic to Miss Jamie Campbell.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we're going to start with our first sales tax of the fiscal year. We're starting off pretty strong, right on line with budget. And so what you'll see is that so far, we have not done any of our sales tax abatements as of yet. We are going to be expecting to do the sales tax abatements only on the city side for Tractor Supply and for Bloomfield Homes. And so as we start paying those out, I will be demonstrating those for you on these slides in the coming months. But as of as of October, we haven't started paying those out. So retail trade, again, it continues to just keep growing, keeps doing well. It's our main driving force. You guys can kind of see it for yourself. Accommodations, food service, same as last year. It's following the same trend. I want to kind of scale back from that manufacturing, what we originally thought was a really high drive. That we had an outside manufacturing company that ended up getting their sales tax back. And so even though we saw this in last month as well, we saw that we had like a large spike, but then we ended up rebating it back. And that can happen through either they contacted the state and said, we made a mistake, it shouldn't have gone to Commerce, it belonged to Campbell, or it belonged to Greenbowl. But all I know is that at some point, and I believe it was in February of last year, we ended up rebating it back. So don't let that skew your numbers, okay? Our retail trade mix for October of 2022, you can see here. We're still following our trend, same trend as we have year over year. We're still doing really well. Our online sales is doing well. It seems like we're starting to balance out and we're starting to see that very pretty soon we'll see that drop off. And we'll start being able to compare our 4 years after the new tax law went into effect, and we'll be able to kind of throw that last line out, and we'll be able to be comparing our 4 years with actual data instead of that one outlier year, which is kind of nice because it does seem like we're following the same wavelengths month after month. For our accommodation and food services for October of 2022, again, we're following the same trends, but at the same time, we're seeing great growth. We're still seeing these things continuously grow. We're seeing businesses come in. I'm excited to see what happens after we have a few more restaurants and things kind of pop in. It'll be exciting to see how that affects this slide. So moving into our property tax revenue, if nobody had any questions on sales tax, I just assumed you didn't. So if nobody has any questions on that, moving into property tax revenue, the biggest change that I want to draw your attention to is the red section kind of at the top, in the middle, for, it's called reduction to your M&O revenue. These are the abatements that we are paying back for your neighborhood empowerment zones. And one thing I kind of want to explain is that I will not be paying out any more neighborhood empowerment zone abatements this fiscal year, okay? And the reason is that I have to wait until our, number one, our property tax is set, and number two, they've had a chance to finalize their valuations. And so if I go in and look at some properties that maybe today, now they're finished, well, the valuation in Hunt CAD is not going to be updated until they've had an opportunity to go through and revalue it. And so in order to actually give them the rebate on the improvements that they've done for our city, I have to wait until the valuations are updated. But at the same time, I want to wait until they've been certified. Because we all know that sometimes your first valuation may be a little high. And so I would much rather wait until Hunt County has had a chance to certify their valuations. And so what we did is that the first week in October, I went through all of our completed neighborhood empowerment zones, applications, and I can't think of the word, but yes. And went through all of them, looked for all of them that were completed, all the ones that have finished all of their steps, and had requested to have property tax rebated to them. The majority of these, I'm going to say 90% of them, are going to be developers that have only requested the 1 year, okay? Because they can't request more than that because they're the investor. And so I want you guys to see that, yes, it does affect our revenue. It is going to decrease our revenue. But I want you also to be able to see what that number actually is in the grand scheme of things. So it doesn't actually, it's not going to reduce that big blue circle there. Okay, it's not going to reduce our pie chart, but I wanted you to actually be able to put a number and so you can kind of put it in perspective. So as of right now, we're upside down, right? Because we've only gotten $5,000 in property tax, but we've paid out 19. But of course, we all know everybody pays their property tax in January, so that's very normal. I'm not concerned about it. This is also our delinquent taxes has been updated. And so now everybody who hasn't paid their taxes, now including last year, now rolls into the delinquents. So, and people who are on payment plans, those are still delinquent payments. And so we are still receiving those. That number keeps on moving. Does anybody have any questions on this or the abatements or anything that I can help clear up?
I will add that we have a 380 agreement with Nexi that potentially requires us to rebate some of the tax on their improvement values. They did not meet the trigger, and so they haven't earned any of that rebate in this first year. So we're not anticipating any rebate to Nexi because they didn't hit their employment goal.
And what I would like to do is, if for some reason this abatement increases and it's not related to neighborhood empowerment zone, I will separate it for you so you can actually see the difference. I don't have financials for you. Mainly, one, because we are living in a new fiscal year. I'm working on audit, and so I don't want to give you September financials with me knowing I still have to finalize accruals for September. I'm actively working on ending our year-end close and our audit. I just feel like they would be superficial numbers that wouldn't hold much weight. Our audit is slated to start in January, and so my team and I are working diligently to get us prepared, like we always do. We're ahead of schedule. We're ahead of the auditor's schedule, which I'm very proud of. My team gets better and better every year. And so hopefully whenever our audit has become more and more electronic and not in person. And so they work around the clock to kind of make sure we have everything in place so that all I have to do is just share that drive with them. And on September 30th, I always email the auditors and say, hey, it's the last day of the fiscal year, I need your list. And so I've already got that list, and we've already started taking off their requests. So I would much rather share September financials with you when you get your audit. You want me to go ahead? All right. Becky, we have our new clean campaign. Thank you to Kayla. You did such an amazing job on it. So these are our new Clean Commerce campaign with the new dates on it. Miss Kayla has updated it. She's made it so much more fresh, legible. The back of it has a new clean map, which is lovely. We've updated our website. Latson's had some printed for us. I believe that we have them up front. And so, yay, it's done. There's nothing else.
I'll take the opportunity to further brag on Kayla. You'll notice at the bottom of this, one question we've gotten quite a bit is our old contract with city sanitation. We had 3 holidays that they observed. We now have 6. So there was quite a bit of confusion on Columbus Day, despite the fact that city sanitation has never observed Columbus Day. So we listed those holidays out for regular trash, that trash pickup doesn't occur for regular trash pickup. And so Kayla, you did a great job on that. And then we also have an abundance of these available at the front desk as well, and then on our website. So I'm going to turn this one over to Chief Bassham, as he is the head of our shelter.
So the shelter, we're always doing volunteers, so if you know anybody or anybody that wants to walk animals, get out and groom animals or anything like that, we're always taking volunteers. We would love to get some fresh faces in, get as many as possible, especially around the holidays. It makes a huge difference just getting these animals out, exercise, and walking up and down the road. That they kind of get stir crazy locked up, and we just don't have the staff to give them adequate time. They all get out, it's just not enough. So the more volunteers we've got, the better. Any kind of civic organizations or fraternal organizations, be ours, anybody we know, we would love to have some volunteers. Even some permanent ones that are there all the time, but if it's just a group that can come down for a couple of days, that'd be great.
So this is just a reminder we pushed out to the community. We tend to, in years past, when bad weather sneaks up on us, then we tend to tell everybody, hey, have you updated your IRIS? So this is just your reminder if you've relocated, updated a phone number, recently relocated to Commerce or moved to a different address, update your IRIS. The form is available electronically. The link is on our Facebook, or you're welcome to call City Hall and we can provide you with that. Jamie's new utility bills also include the link or a QR code that'll directly link you to the IRIS alerts. So we're really trying, when we close for inclement weather, it becomes a little bit of a, everybody all of a sudden is, hi, change my number. And so we're trying to do a better job of getting it out there before the bad weather hits. Let's make sure you're signed up for IRIS alerts. And then as another reminder, that's a free service now that the city absorbs the bill for anybody who registers for that. The university uses a separate warning system. I think it's called PAUSE. So university students can utilize our IRIS alerts to get city updates that the university updates wouldn't necessarily push out. So this is a good reminder for students on and off campus to get alerts from the city as well. Now on to events. The Holiday Market, I believe this is the 7th year that the Staff Council of Texas A&M Commerce has hosted this event. They always have an excellent variety of handmade crafts, home decor, seasonal decor, boutique clothing, jewelry, beauty products, candles. It's a great way to kind of mark a bunch of items off your list before the Thanksgiving break. So I know a lot of our staff likes to participate. That'll be this Friday, November 18th, and it's at the Morris Rec, and it goes all day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tons of vendors, so we encourage everybody to stop by. I'm gonna let Chris talk about this Sunday's event.
So this Sunday, we're gonna be there about 12:30, but the fire and police department are gonna be out at Walmart. We're gonna be taking, we're gonna have an angel tree, we're gonna bring it out of the store, have it there with us. We're gonna also be accepting donations and encouraging people to pick an angel. We'll be tracking those angels. If they've got any extra money, to go in, fill an angel, bring it back to us, and we'll keep them all together. If they can't, just have a couple extra dollars more drop off. The guys will be there, or I'll be there, but we'll all be there. We'll be taking donations and trying to raise money to make one as successful as we can.
So again, that's Sunday, November 20th from 12:30 to 3. So if you stop by Walmart, grab an angel off the tree while you're in taking care of your grocery shopping, you can also take care of making a difference in a child's Christmas this year. Miss Mueller already discussed the miracle on Main Street, so I will just echo that, that the Chamber of Commerce is hosting their Miracle on Main Street Christmas Parade. And that, somebody help me with the time on that. That one's in the evening, right?
They plan on starting around 5:30.
Okay. I always get confused with the Boat Ark Parade in the daytime and then I know applications to be in the parade are due to the chamber by November 28th. So be sure and get those in as well. Chris, I'm turning this one over to you as well.
So we tried to coincide this with the Christmas parade, but we just couldn't get Santa to be here. So on the following Friday, on the 9th of December, Santa Claus and at least one of his reindeer and sleigh are gonna be in front of the fire station. And we're gonna have, just let the community bring the kids out, they can find the sleigh, they can pass the reindeer, get their picture made with Mr. and Miss Claus. Lunch is gonna have a side of hot cocoa, we've got cookies. There's gonna be, I think right now I've got 8 elves that are gonna be, here flying in, and we'll be helping the kids write letters to Santa, getting those in the mailbox and getting them sent off. And so Santa's just coming to the station, we hope everybody comes out, and we're gonna be going around tomorrow and the next few days, passing these out to the school, and trying to get businesses posted. So we're a little scared, we don't know if we're gonna have a huge turnout or nobody comes. One way or another, obviously the reindeer are gonna be there.
I was standing in the lobby tonight and we had all the second graders here to do the pledge and I overheard one of them say to Chief, well, which reindeer are gonna be here? So we all patiently await to find out which reindeer exactly will be here.
We made Jamie Crayons a little bit, we did find out that it is possible to get all of them here. I don't believe this year we're gonna do that.
The cost per reindeer.
A little bit.
We already bought one Christmas tree.
Yeah.
12 reindeer.
Do we want to mention the city Christmas party on December 10th?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Well, so my only thought was, I made the invitation for a city employee Christmas party, but I didn't put that it was a city employee Christmas party. It's not exactly a come one, come all, but, Howdy's right for city employees. We are hosting a Christmas party for staff December 10th, which is a Saturday.
And the council is invited to attend.
Yes. The invitations will be for next week.
Okay. I want to take a moment and recognize some outstanding effort by your city staff that probably won't be seen or recognized. And I'm sure I'm not going to capture all of the outstanding work that they do or have done in this past month, but I think it's important to publicly recognize when they go above and beyond and do an exceptional service. The first one I want to mention is we recently had a fire call at an apartment complex right on the edge of campus. If I remember correctly, from the time the tone dropped to the time they arrived was 3 minutes, and our crew was able to contain a fire at an apartment complex, prevent it from spreading, and limit damage to that facility and to the health of the public there. And so I just think it's an exceptional job that they've done, being there, being ready, and being able to respond to calls in an incredibly timely manner. And I just want to say publicly thank you to our fire department and their leadership for the incredible job they do every day, every week, every month that usually goes unseen. Additionally, I want to recognize some of our water staff that routinely does work that never gets seen. You don't publicly like to talk about how close we come to being without water sometimes, that the public never knows. But within the past couple of weeks, we had 2 major water leaks on the raw water transmission line coming in from Tawakoni. And both of those leaks could have been catastrophic. And you have a utility staff that gets out and walks incredibly long sections of that line to find the leak, then get in there, dig it out, and repair it in a timely manner so that we don't lose water service. And they did 2 of those in about a 24-hour period. That really pulled this city out of what would have potentially been a tough spot, because that's the only line we have bringing in water. And it's 26 miles of really old pipeline that needs some love and attention. But we have a staff that, regardless of the time, regardless of the effort, they show up, they walk, they find it, they fix it, and they serve, and usually don't get recognition. And I want to publicly say thank you to that staff. And then to continue on that, the staff at the water treatment plant, we have, and I'll kind of roll this into the project update, we're doing a work at the pump station at Lake Tawakoni where we're replacing the electrical motor control center. It's the project that keeps giving gifts to us. We are scheduled to have that completed by the December deadline. And so we've been in conversation with the grant agency. Everything looks like it's tracking well. But currently, at the part of the project that we're under, they have killed permanent power so that they can actually install and switch over the electrical gear. So the pumps that move water right now are operating off of a generator. And so we've brought in a trailer-mounted generator that's diesel, and we sized it in a way so that we wouldn't have to go out there every day. And the generator that they delivered requires us to go out there every day. And so staff from your water treatment plant are traveling all the way to Tawakoni at least once or twice a day to check on the generator, to top off the fuel, to make sure that water continues to flow. And that is above and beyond what is normally the scope of duty. Our staff goes above and beyond without complaint, and they do it behind the scenes and rarely get any recognition for it. And so this city, this community is served by an incredibly dedicated staff of employees that do exceptional work, and I want to make sure that we recognize them when we have the opportunity. Keeping on with project updates, most visible continues to be the splash park. We've stopped our efforts to dig to China, and so they are continuing to do the prep work for the soils that will be underneath the pad, but the project is moving forward and continues to be on schedule to be available for the community in this spring. The street projects that we're doing, street engineering design is 90% complete. There is some utility work that is still under the design, and we expect to have bidding late fall, early winter, which means work will probably be starting in the spring. So we're continuing to move forward with about $2.5 million worth of street reconstruction work that will benefit this community greatly. And so those are our project updates. And we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Lisenby?
I just want to say, on next Friday is Black Friday, and it's also our city manager's birthday.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
All right, we do have a need to move into executive session tonight, so can we have a motion, please?
Move that we move into executive session.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So it is 7:13, and I call this meeting back to order. We have no action resulting from our executive session, so all we need now is to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Y'all have a great evening. 7:13. This meeting is closed.
Yes, and, when are we supposed to, but if he's gonna be gone, I got
I got a home for some of you.
Thank you.